Hello and welcome everyone to this Technology for Change podcast, right? We have been doing this for a very long while now. And today we have we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Aubrey, right? And she is the co-founder of DARA Technology, right? I can tell you a lot about the technology and the company and the application itself, but let's hear it from the person who came up with the actual idea. Hi, Aubrey.
Hi, very nice to be with you today. Thanks for having me on. So as you said, I'm co-founder of DARA, and what our application does is it directly connects patients and professional caregivers. We're in the United States home healthcare market, and right now that's valued at $142.9 billion. So it's a huge market, a market that's severely underserved, and we're here to help assist in changing the industry where it's at currently.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that incredible introduction, right? So let's get started. I have loads of questions for you that will dissect the whole journey, the product itself, and how the industry is shaping out right now, right? So first, let's start off with a very generic question, but this is something that we should ask every person. Let's start from the very beginning. What's your story, and how did you enter the entrepreneurial space, right? Because it's very difficult to become an entrepreneur, to leave a paycheck, the safety and security of a paycheck, and go after an idea that hasn't been tested out, right? So how did you ended up in this space, and what has your journey been so far?
Yeah, no, good question. It is difficult, but it's amazing in its difficulty. And I think myself and my co-founders have always had the kind of natural instinct to be entrepreneurial. So my co-founders, Sean and Christopher Pascoe, were siblings. When we were very young, we had our grandmother who lived in our house who suffered a stroke, a disability that needed accommodations. And we were lucky enough to have my parents and my grandfather be able to assist her in the home. As we got older, we realized that this was not a common scenario. A lot of people do not have family members or loved ones or other people they can rely on that really need assistance in the home. So that was something we were always passionate about, is people who are disabled or older, how can we provide assistance to them? At the same time, when we were young, we also were very entrepreneurial. So going back to that question, when we were maybe about 9 or 10 years old, we put on little shows in our house and we would charge for the tickets. My brothers, Sean and Chris, started working in a bowling alley at about 14. We're from Las Vegas. So when they were about 16, they got their first jobs. Yeah, they got their first official job on the Las Vegas Strip. Yes. And then I myself, very different background. I have a dance background. So I started dancing. In high school. Yeah. And I really wanted to pursue that. So with that being said, dance is something that is very unstable. And you get used to not having that maybe steady paycheck. So I think naturally for me, it was already in me. For my brothers, they always had kind of that drive, or what we call, here in the States, sometimes we overuse this, but it's true, the kind of that hustle mentality. And so the three of us together kind of brought how we naturally are, and also the skills we've learned over time when we've started this new company, DARA. And so all of those three things: growing up with a grandmother that didn't have care, being entrepreneurial, and then also gaining extra skills. Sean and Chris are U.S. Coast Guard veterans. Like I said, my dance background I pursued. However, I also went into health and wellness. I've taught Pilates, taught a lot of older people, how to move and rehab injuries and whatnot. So we took all those kind of three things and pursued DARA.
Okay, so you already answered my second question, and I'll still ask it anyway. But my second question was that how did the idea come up? But I kind of understand the background that you already had that caregiving mentality within you, right? But how did it evolve? And I know that you're a co-founder, so tell me more about the team, and how did the idea come up, and what initial steps did you take?
Yeah, so good question. So we are in a unique spot where we've had a home care agency here in Southern Nevada. We've had it for 5 years, and we have been blessed and I've had the opportunity to work with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. So we've worked closely with taking care of veterans as well as older people and disabled people. With that, in the 5 years that we've been acting in this space and serving in this space, we've realized that the industry is very broken. We've learned that professional caregivers feel like they're being undervalued, underpaid, underserved. Patients feel like it's a complicated process to set up care, and they also are complaints of caregiver turnover. Now, the caregiver turnover is exactly what I had mentioned before. Caregivers feel like they're underserved, undervalued, underpaid. With all of this being said, we asked ourselves, how can we make our lives as administrators of an agency easier, but how can we also change the industry? How can we affect larger change? Because that's really what we want to do as entrepreneurs and as people. We feel like we want to serve our society in the best way we can. So we had some ideas here and there, thinking more along the lines of what can we integrate into our agency? Can we, act with other software companies? Can we act with other providers? Can we, give caregivers more bonuses, those kinds of things that I think every business asks themselves. And then we realized, no, we really want to change the industry. We need to create something ourselves. And so we brainstormed some ideas. It sounds kind of cheesy, but Chris, our co-founder, had a dream of a mobile application directly connecting patients and caregivers somehow. And he kind of woke up and said, guys, I have an idea. And we were like, okay, that's something. And then we really brainstormed it even more and said, I think that's the idea.
Okay, so you like literally turned a dream into a reality.
Literally turned a dream into a dream. Yes.
Literally did that. Yeah. So that's like really nice to hear. That brings me to like another question that has really intrigued me. I always wanted to ask this to like a person who was in this industry. So like the normal perception is, and I know that like a lot of bulk of the people who need caregiving are the elderly and are the veterans, right? But like, do you think that like do other people need like care as well? Like for example, like children, right, who have like issues from the very beginning, right? There are a lot of children who are like differently able, and on top of that, like, they're like women, right? They go through multiple complications in life. So like, do you think that this segment also like constitutes a major chunk of like what your industry is right now, or like it's still like a very small portion, or those people don't like reach out to like professional caregiving services?
It's a great question. So this industry is so ripe for growth in the coming years. So AARP found that those 50 plus will outnumber children by the year 2035. That's at least in the United States, because boomers are getting older.
Exactly.
We're also seeing that around the world. At the same time, unfortunately, the growing number of people with disabilities is also occurring. And then as to your question about children, that's also a service that can be more served. So as DARA, we're really focusing on is older people, veterans, people with disabilities, and we really want to grow from there. So one of those things is childcare. Right now, we're not going to focus on that just yet. We're hoping to do that maybe 3 years down the line. We really want to find a specific demographic that we focus on and then grow from there.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, all those kind of groups, segments, demographics do need service for sure.
Exactly. And like talking about that, talking about like future plans. So technology plays a huge role in today's world, right? And technology has like evolved tremendously, especially over the past year, right? We have come across like AI, we have come across like machine learning in actual real world application, right? So I was just watching like a video a couple of days ago on TikTok, which basically showed that like Alzheimer's patients now, you can like rig up their house with IoT devices, right, to gather data, right? And that can like give like a whole new meaning to caregiving, right? Because you have to monitor them the whole time, so you can see like the severity of the situation through the aid of technology, right? So like, do you think that like the role of technology in all these different aspects of caregiving will grow? For example, like let's say a version of ChatGPT comes up, right? So like a virtual caregiver, right, who can basically guide people on what to do, simple things like simple exercises, simple like plans, simple regimens. Like, do you think that like there is scope for this and how much would it impact your industry?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a really, really good question, really good points. I think what we're finding is older people, let's say those 50 plus, maybe even 60 plus, are actually ready for the technological change. I saw a study recently that showed that the people within those age groups actually use about 5 devices on average, and they're online about 5 hours daily. So they're ready for the technological change. Those a little bit younger are also ready for it. With that being said, this is why we're making the move with DARA. Is it's time to advance and innovate really the industry we're in, to also get people ready for even further changes. So, I'm hoping in the future to see caregivers, real people, because that's who we want to serve, right? We want to give them plenty of work and let them show their compassion and everything that they love. We want them to be in the home, but maybe when they're not able to be in the home, that there is other technologies that can be in the home, just like you're saying, AI. I've heard some talk, and I'm sure you've read about the idea of a virtual assistant. So that would be really amazing, because that relieves a lot of pressure and a lot of strain on our healthcare system as a whole. These people are avoiding going to living facilities, they're avoiding being in the hospital for a long time, rehab facilities, but it also relieves pressure off of people's loved ones and spouses, or let's say people who don't have family in the nearby area, they live other places. So that's what we focus on, as well as providing a caregiver in the home that's there because of those reasons. But just like you said, let's think about what it'll be 5 years from now. Maybe it's okay, the caregiver's in the home, treating them hand on hand, and then there's some sort of AI in the home to also assist them. And I'm hoping that's the way we go. That would be a really beautiful thing for society.
Perfect. I think that really gives a really good reply to my question. And one more question that I have is that see, ideas are really good, but establishing a business around them is the most complex part, right? Establishing a business and running it and making it viable and profitable. So what were the initial challenges that you faced in turning it, this idea, this vision into a business, right? What opportunities did you identify? How did you do the planning, right? So our people can know that ideas, good ideas are good, but if you want to make them viable, you need a successful business structure around them. So give some light on that, shed some light on that. That would be great.
Yeah, I think just like you said, an idea is just an idea, right? I think it takes people who know how to execute, and we believe we're those people. We know how to execute an idea, and I think it comes with not only our history in being in home healthcare. Like I said, we've been in this industry for about 5 years. We've learned what we should do, what we shouldn't do. We've learned from our mistakes. We've been able to pivot. And I think with that is learning adaptability and flexibility and having the right team. So far, the biggest challenges I'm sure other founders find is funding, first of all. Being able to create an application. And we were in a great position where we already had a business and we were already profitable. So that profit we can put towards, another venture, which is DARA. We've also had great families and friends that have been there to support us through funding as well. And we're hoping to gain, future funding once we actually launch. But I would say, just like any startup, financials, money, right? Just to get down to the simplistic terms, that's the most difficult part. But I think gaining a network of people that are there to help and assist you, that's the biggest thing. Also having a team beyond the founders that are willing to move through changes, move through ups and downs. We're lucky we have 2 essential team members that help us in day-to-day activities. We have an office manager, client care manager that are coming on with us in DARA that'll help us with more administrative tasks, call center, things like that. So we're lucky to really have these 2 individuals to help us grow. And then for us as founders, we know that we don't know it all. And so it's constantly being open to advice and knowing when we should take certain steps and when we should question those steps and see what's best. So like I said, really adaptability, flexibility, keeping your network so you have funding sources, and being able to just meet the challenges with a smile and say, okay, how are we going to move on from this? And, how can we do better the next day?
You mentioned a very good thing, like you're basically self-aware that like you don't know it all, right? That is like perhaps, according to me, the biggest realization an entrepreneur can have. And you also mentioned that you need to question a lot of things, right? We don't know, right? So like, what was the main points in the journey where you faced this obstacle, right? That you didn't know about it and you like overcame that?
I would say, like I said, we've been in this space for 5 years, but there hasn't been any type of technology that we're introducing to the space. So the biggest challenges have been, can an older person actually work with this type of technology? Which I had answered earlier. We found that, yes, they can. We just have to make it approachable and easily accessible. Are caregivers open to working by themselves, essentially, not really acting anymore for an agency, but almost in a sense being a freelancer, working their own schedule, taking the clients on that they want to take on. And we have found from doing, many questionnaires that caregivers do want that. They want flexibility in their schedule. They want autonomy. And then the largest, I would say, challenge would be actually executing, as we talked about before, all those ideas, and actually getting the product into people's hands, testing it, and seeing what their feedback is, and then being open to that feedback. So I would say those challenges mostly occurred within the past 5 months, I would say, of really going, okay, is this something that is going to be a fit, a product fit, a market fit? And we're finding that it is, but we also know that we're going to have to be open to further feedback as well.
Okay. So talking about like feedback, I have like 2 questions that I would intertwine, right? The first part is like the inclusivity part, right? You mentioned that you raised a very good point that whether like people who are like 50, 60 years old, would they be like conducive enough to use the app? So like inclusivity is a major part of this arena or this niche. So like, have you like pondered about like different features, for example, like speech recognition, or like introducing like different language supports, or like having like a dedicated like helplines through which people can like use the application, right? Making it easier for people to like come on board the application and use it like in a very aligned manner. And on top of that, one more thing is that like the adaptability aspect, right? So you mentioned that like in the past 5 months, you've found like a lot of challenges. So have you started like giving the application out to a test group or a focus group of people, right? And have these customers like provided you insights that you didn't know of previously, right? When you were like basing the whole idea of your assumptions, right? So that would be something that if you could shed light on, that would be great.
Yeah, no, we've had a test group, and what's been really nice about this test group is we have people who are more hesitant to technology, and then we have people who are really open to it. And so that's, I feel like, been a good balance, because we can see what type of feedback both types of groups are giving us. With that being said, what's really nice on our end is that, let's say someone is having trouble with the technology. On our end, we can actually set appointments up. So it would be called a care appointment, where a caregiver is coming to a patient's home and they're providing care. We can set that up for the patient if needed. We can set up a password if needed. We can input their information. So there are ways that we can assist. And what's great is the caregiver can also assist. So let's say a caregiver comes to the home and the patient doesn't quite know how to work the app, open their phone, etc. The caregiver's there to help them and ensure that there's that engagement. And what's nice is there's these features within the product where the caregiver must ensure that the patient knows how to work the app. So what's great is the caregiver can just say, okay, let's pull out your phone. We're going to open the app. We're going to start care. start care, we're going to end care, we're going to end care. This is how you see your transaction history. And then what's nice too is we also have a dedicated helpline. So I mentioned those two individuals that we've had on our team for a long time. They're coming with us into DARA, and they'll be the ones to really start that helpline. But was there part of your question I didn't answer? I know I was
I think you answered it in full, right? You like very brief and good answers, and that is like great. You don't beat about the bush. You give like concrete answers, and I want like one more concrete answer from you. So like till here, I've been hearing like a lot of things about you, and one thing I've guessed is that like you have like very strong values for this organization, right? You have very strong values on how you want to operate, run, and maintain this application and this organization, right? So like what are those values that you hold really dear, and how do you think that they differentiate you from like the competition and like similar application and similar companies that work out there, right? So what is the value that you bring through those values?
Yeah, so as I had mentioned earlier in our journey to entrepreneurship, is what we really value most as people is dedicating ourselves to the betterment of society. We believe that we have these lives to do that. And so we've created our values around that, our principles. And basically DARA stands for D is diligence to the people who need care, dedication to the people who provide care. A is for accessibility, for people to be able to access care in a really easy way. R is to revolutionize the industry that we're working in, because it needs that. It really needs change, as we've talked about so far. And then A is to advocate for people who need care. And so what we're seeing around the world and in the United States is that there are going to be more people who need care than people who don't need care. It's just the truth of the matter. And we all need to realize that fact. And by all, I mean society as a whole. And so we're hoping that DARA really opens people up to that fact, to the fact that people are going to need care. And there's going to have to be people who are providing care. And of course, we talked about the AI question. We're hoping that comes into play, but people will need to provide care at the end of the day. And so that's our main value system. And we believe that other companies in this field may forget that at times, that's what we really are here for. We're here for the betterment of society. And the biggest thing is we're trying to increase the longevity of people's lives and create a happier, healthier outcome for individuals.
Perfect. I really like the how you have named the company, and I'll just take one word from that is advocacy, right? Because like in this industry, right, in the caregiving industry or like the medical industry in general, there is like a lot of support groups, right? They have like symbiotic relationship with like these companies, right? So have you like tried to like engage these support groups for advocacy on how people should go towards this solution instead of like hamming or like staying where they are, right? So have you like started like integrating or like creating that network that could like help you later down the road and also help people?
Yeah, and what we're doing is we're approaching that at a local level and then hoping to take that on a national level. So as far as right now, when we initially launched DARA, we have a network in town, and we're in Southern Nevada. And what I mean by in town is Las Vegas, Henderson, that area, where there are other care providers that need to set up care for individuals. So let's say a discharge nurse at a hospital, or a social worker, or people within the field that need to set up care in the home. We really want to identify those individuals here, create a long-lasting relationship, have them work within DARA, set up care within DARA. And so the approach really is to start at the local level, identify support groups for caregivers within this area, and then grow from there. And then hopefully that will be on a national level.
Great. So one more thing is that like the caregivers, right? They are an important piece of the whole equation, right? And I've guessed from your answers previously that like you have considered a lot for their well-being, right? So like how exactly like is their current state right now? What challenges do they face? And like how will those challenges be solved through this application? Like what extra care can you offer to those caregivers so that they can do their job better in a more flexible manner? And how can they basically provide more value to like other caregiving opportunity that they come across?
Yeah, good question. So I'll start with a little history. So with caregivers in the United States, and this is throughout the world as well, there has been less focus on them as an actual profession. So many caregivers act on a part-time level, or they receive kind of base minimum pay.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Over the past few years, there has been an increase in that pay, but they still have been undervalued as far as not being able to have a flexible schedule, not being able to kind of make decisions when they need to make decisions. In other words, there's kind of a brick and mortar company that is kind of acting like the middleman between the patient and the caregiver.
Exactly. Yes.
Many caregivers are minorities, and many caregivers, and I'll say most, are females. With that being said, we understand statistically that that particular demographic usually has children, and they have a need for additional part-time jobs because their caregiving job is not kind of giving them enough money or providing enough stability for them. So what we're doing is really empowering the caregiver, allowing them to be paid more as base pay, but also giving them choice of how much they want to be paid. And we understand that there's some patients who are going to be harder cases versus easier cases. What I mean by that is maybe there's a patient who needs tremendous assistance in the home, like toileting, showering. They're not mobile, so they need transfer assistance, being able to get up and out of bed. They maybe have a wheelchair. So that's something maybe that's a little bit of a harder case, a little bit harder on the caregiver. And then there's patients that maybe it's easier. Maybe they just need companionship. Maybe they're suffering from dementia and they need someone to sit with them in the home. And usually for caregivers, it's maybe a little bit of an easier case because it's not so taxing on the body. So a caregiver is actually able to say, okay, I want to be paid this much for this type of case, this much for another type of case.
Exactly.
They're able to work within their own hours. So let's say they do have children, which most often they do, they can work around their children's schedules. They can work around their maybe other spouse's schedule if they have a spouse. So it's really giving them, like I said, flexibility and autonomy and feeling like they have control over their profession. And really what we're trying to do as well is elevate the profession itself.
So do you think like just adding on to your answer, like a tiering system would work better in this space? For example, like let's say a caregiver has like 10 years of experience, right? Versus someone who is just entering the field of caregiving, right? And a lot of the times, like these people have this complaint that like I have like 10 years of experience and I'm still getting the same base pay as someone who's entering the field, right? Despite the fact that I have like a wealth of knowledge. Obviously, like if you are going through 10 years in this industry and you come across a patient, you have like a very good idea of how to deal with this patient, right? You learn the tricks to the trade. You know what medicines to administer, how to administer it, right? As compared to someone who's coming in new. But still, like they say that like they're getting the same base pay as someone who's coming just fresh, right? So do you think a tiering system would work better for them and be more lucrative for them, so that like we do not lose people of value in this industry and they still continue giving like quality care to people?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why we have kind of a pay scale that the caregiver can work within. And so if you have someone who, like you mentioned, has 10 years of experience, they can set their pay higher. And what we believe as a company and as individuals as well is we really believe in a meritocracy. Sometimes the experience means you should get paid more. And sometimes maybe you have a little less experience, but maybe you have incredible communication skills. You have incredible compassion and a sense of knowing what to do next. So we really give that power into the hands of the caregiver, and they're able to say, okay, I want to get paid this much based on my experience, my knowledge, or even my sense of knowing how to work really well with patients.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right. And I think that like that is the right way to go. If you have to like do good for these people. And that brings me to like another question. Women in tech, right? So like there has been like a lot of strides that we have made in the previous decade, right? But I still feel that like women in tech do not represent the absolute majority right now, right? I think the ratio, I might be wrong, the ratio is like 80-20, skewed in favor of men, right? So firstly, what advice will you give to like girls, especially young girls who want to enter the tech space, right? Because like this is something that you do not have a lot of idea of, right? When you're young. So like what advice would you give to them? And I know the glass ceiling is kind of broken, but I think that like some shards are still there, right? So how do you tackle these challenges, right? And how do you see yourself as a co-founder of like an emerging technology company? And how do you tackle the challenges that you face as a woman in tech?
I would say advice to young girls is to actually avoid identifying yourself as just a female. It's very important to who we are and what we do, but I would say see what your skills are first. See what you want to do. And really identify, and especially in schooling, I feel like we don't do this enough, identify if you are an entrepreneur at heart. And then see where that takes you. If you are interested in tech, keep moving and don't pay attention to anything that's going to stop you because of your identification, meaning female. I think there's a lot of support systems now that will help push your career forward. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think if there's any kind of place where you feel pushback because you are a female, ignore it and keep moving forward. Because I think there's enough support in the world now that you can move forward despite whether you're male or female. And then the biggest thing is also to be realistic about your goals. I think we're in a place where it's really hard to manage whether you're male or female, but especially female. It is hard to manage children and being an entrepreneur. So I think the best thing is to be realistic about your goals and have support systems when you need them. And nothing should hold you back just because you are a female. I think, like I said, there's plenty of support for females. I think women in tech or women in any space can provide something really unique, especially in leadership. And I think it's really important also, though, to have a balance. I know for me as a co-founder working with two male co-founders, it really gives me a sense of balance. And it's really nice to have a diverse team as well. So if you're a woman and you're a leader and you're in tech, I think surround yourself with other people that are going to bring great ideas and support you, whether they're male or female.
Nice. That was like an incredible answer. And I'll just take two parts from it and build another question that is like really interesting to me. One is setbacks, and the other thing is like the entrepreneurial journey, right? So setbacks are like the part and parcel of the entrepreneurial journey, and you are the last one to get the money after like everyone has been paid. So like firstly, what is the biggest setback that you faced in creating DARA Technologies, right? And how did you tackle that? And like, what is the general advice for like other entrepreneurs when it comes to like facing setbacks? How do you tackle them? How do you like handle them? And how to move forward when you like encounter something major? Let's say like you don't get funding for your idea right away, right? You are very optimistic, but you don't get funding.
Yeah, I think for us as a team, that's our biggest setback is funding. I think we are lucky where we have a really strong set of values and ethics that keep us grounded and keep us from being really worried about the future. I think you should have worries because they can be healthy and you can address them, but also at the same time, you can only worry so much and you kind of have to let things roll off your shoulder. So the biggest setback, like I said, for us is probably just the funding. And let's say you don't get that for other entrepreneurs. My advice is, okay, we didn't get funding. How can we maybe take what we were going to do and just scale it down a little bit? Maybe we don't have this huge launch. We just have a smaller launch. And what are the opportunities we can have within a smaller launch? Because sometimes you don't get what you want, right? Just generally in life, but there can be really good things that come out of that. So for us, we realized, okay, we're going to have a smaller launch and do this on a smaller scale, but this may be a really beautiful thing because we can really ensure that we're serving people in the way we want to serve them. We can manage growth. We can really make sure that we're profitable right off the bat. And, a lot of businesses aren't able to do that. But like I've said, as a home care agency, we were profitable within the first year. Not a lot of people are. And so that's also the beauty of going, okay, we don't have funding, so we're doing it smaller, but we'll be profitable by all accounts and by our numbers. And so that's one way to accept a setback, especially when it comes to funding. And then setbacks in general, I think it's, as I said earlier, being adaptable and flexible and having something that keeps you grounded. For us, as I said before, it's really our values and ethics and our value system and faith that keeps us grounded and keeps us able to kind of let setbacks just go away and we move forward. And I think no matter what your value system is, that is the key, is just being able to actually move forward and realize that a setback can be a beautiful thing, especially when it comes to learning and growth.
Perfect. I think that sums up the mindset of the entrepreneur, right? And I now know why exactly you have managed to create two successful businesses. And at the end, I would like to plug in your brand as well. So what's next for Dara Technologies, in the immediate future, the next 3 months? What should people expect?
Good question. So the next step is to have a launch within the Southern Nevada area. We're hoping to, so we have an agency. We're hoping to introduce our clients and caregivers to DARA and actually have them on the platform. And then we're hoping to pursue those local networking opportunities that we discussed earlier, have other care providers actually use the platform, get their feedback. And then we're hoping to move outside the Southern Nevada area. And that's probably by month 3, we're hoping to do that.
That's really good. And what are your expansion plans? I know that you'll start off in Southern Nevada, but what's next? How do you see this brand expanding across the entire continental United States?
Yeah, we're hoping to expand in the West Coast states by the end of year 1. Again, it's really dependent on just what funding we have. And then obviously, marketing and all those other things that we have to consider. And then we're hoping to expand to East Coast secondly, and then Midwest and Central United States. So we're hoping by the end of year 2 that we can really expand into all 50 states.
Nice. And I wish you all the luck for that. And I think that this is an idea that was really great from the start. And on top of that, you are leading it. So that gives it 2 checkpoints, right? And I think that with these 2 things and the application that we are creating, obviously, we are really good with that. So I think with all these 3 check marks, I think you will be able to build a really good company in the next 5 years, right? And we might see we might not see a unicorn come out of it, but we'll definitely see something that is providing exceptional value to this caregiving industry, and it has the potential to change people's lives and bring about a better quality of life for different people. So thank you so much, Aubrey, for your time. It was really nice talking to you. And I really am optimistic about your whole idea and your whole brand and personality as well. I am in awe of how much thought you have put into each and every aspect, especially from the naming to the application itself to the whole community building aspect. So that was really awe-inspiring. And I wish you the best of luck for your future endeavors. Is there anything that as a passing or the final comment that you would like to give to listeners right now?
Well, Thank you, first of all, for your time and the great questions. And I would say just keep an eye out for us. I know, as we've discussed, that people are really going to need this application and need care in the future. So I'm 28. I have a grandmother that needs care, but let's say you're 28 and you don't really think that much of it. It will be a significant point within the next 5 years, even if you are young. So keep an eye out for us. DARA is great for anyone who will need care in the future, especially our older folks and our loved ones. So we'll be out there.
That was really good, Aubrey. It was really nice meeting you. Thank you so much for joining the podcast and giving your valuable time. So keep in touch and keep growing. Have a really nice day. Take care.